former acting U.S. Secretary of Labor under President Obama and professor at Cornell. Seth, I want to go to you first. Let's start with this PPP program. Small businesses employ over 50% of this country. The average one only has 27 days worth of cash on hand. They've been shut down for weeks. Are you concerned that the slow rollout of this much needed program won't get them the money in time?
I am, Steph. It's started out really stumbling, but, you know, the SBA, just like the UI system and the Internal Revenue Service, are totally overwhelmed by the volume of need in our society right now. Just to put it in perspective, last year, the SBA approved loans worth $28 billion to about 63,000 businesses. This year, they're being asked to do 13 times more to hundreds of thousands or millions of businesses, and not in a year, but in weeks or months. So they're swamped, their portal is crashing. You know, there's a lot of confusion among lenders. It's going to take a while, sadly, to get this money out. But if we wait too long, some of these businesses will be gone and gone for good, and that will slow the recovery for the American economy dramatically.
Anthony, they broadened the language on who is eligible for this with all good intention, because the less language, the faster they can get the money out. But originally, the idea was any business whose revenue is down 50% or more. But now that they've broadened it, basically any company, or not any company, but many companies can just say, well, we're going to be impacted by coronavirus, so I'm going to apply for this forgivable loan. Just before we got on TV, I heard about a condo board in Tribeca, multi-million-dollar apartments. They're applying for this. Don't we run the risk that the wrong people will get this money? And when $350 billion runs out, what is that going to do for those restaurants, those bars, those gyms that really need this?
Well, I went on the website over the weekend with my team to look at that, and it seems like they did filter in some language to protect against what you're talking about, which is basically rich people looting the system and taking advantage of it and claiming that they've been hurt by the coronavirus. But I think the professor is right about the clunkiness of the system, but I do like the program, Stephanie. I think that this program will, in general, help people. And I call into question the 27-day analysis, because a lot of these businesses, there's over 30 million small businesses, and I'm from a family of them. You know, I have my cousins in the auto glass business. One of my cousins is in a deli. And small business owners have a tendency to be hoarders and save money for periods of stress. And so I'm hoping that we get to the other side of this. The data looks a little bit better. The market's recovering as a result of that data. And I'm hoping we can get these businesses open sooner rather than later. And with the help of that program and the Federal Reserve and others, remember, there's $10 trillion that's going to hit the U.S. economy when this is over. And if you do the statistical analysis of the loss, it's about $3.7 trillion of losses in terms of missed business opportunities. So I'm hoping that that magnitude will outweigh what's going on. But I do agree with the professor. It is bureaucratic, and unfortunately, like most governmental systems, it's going to happen slower than we would all like.
Do you think, Seth, that small businesses have that much time? Anthony says he thinks they've stored a lot more cash, but I can tell you, given the amount of small businesses that are writing to us all weekend long, I spoke to Chase and Bank of America, who said they have so many people that are panicked. And I'm not saying this to be insulting of the SBA in any way, but one small business said the SBA is sort of like a horse and buggy. And what businesses need right now is an ambulance to bring them that cash today.
Well, I'm not as optimistic as Anthony is. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce and MetLife did a survey of small businesses, and a quarter of them said they're already closed. Up to another 40% could be closed in the next 2 weeks. We're seeing very large numbers of businesses that are simply saying, I can't do it anymore because I don't have the cash. I think most small businesses in America really operate on a paycheck-to-paycheck basis, just like families do. They're paying last month's bills with this month's revenue. And if they wait too long to get this cash, I think they're going to be gone for good. Not everybody has that reserve that Anthony is confident folks have. That's why they're going to their banks. That's why banks are flooded right now. That's why Bank of America is getting such a huge number of applications. And that's true not just at the huge banks, it's true at community banks and other places as well. So this is really the dividing line between being able to recover quickly in our economy and not being able to recover. If we allow these businesses to collapse and disappear, it's going to take us a long time to get out of the recession or depression that we're heading into. But if they can keep their staff, keep their suppliers, keep a reservoir of money, and keep the goodwill in their community, then we'll be able to get out quickly. So the success of the PPP program, unemployment insurance, the large business loan programs out of the Fed, if we can keep those going, then I think we have a chance of recovering quickly. Otherwise, it's going to be big trouble.
Anthony, let's talk about goodwill, conscious capitalism, and if people get too greedy, they could ruin it for everyone. On Friday, you had reached out to me and asked me, do I think that small hedge fund managers should be eligible for this program? And in my opinion, I would say absolutely not, or maybe if there was an unlimited amount of money. So I turn the question to you. Do you think money managers for small private equity firms should get this money? There's only $350 billion.
Certainly. Okay, so obviously large hedge fund managers, people like myself, we have no interest in the program. But all I was saying to you is that there are small businesses that are in private capital and venture capital, and they are tied to the multiplier effect of helping these businesses grow. And so just because the business has a name, private equity or hedge fund manager, doesn't necessarily mean that they're loaded with rich people. You've got 25, 27, 28-year-olds that are starting business right now. And Stephanie, I got to tell you, you scared the life out of some of them. They were calling me after your tweet saying, is this program am I not eligible for this? I just started my business. I haven't yet raised my capital. Should I not apply for this program? And so I think we just have to be very careful in our society to just put
Anthony,
labels on things. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but Anthony, a hedge fund didn't have to shut down. You can set up a Bloomberg terminal in your house. A restaurant went to zero revenue. And last I checked, nobody's management fees are getting touched.
No, you see, I think we're talking about two different things.
So would you rather a restaurant get that money over?
Well, listen, I have a restaurant, so I understand the problem there, and we've been funding our restaurant and paying the salaries of our employees. I understand the context that you're saying, but all I'm saying is you have people, and I think Seth would agree with me, there are startups, some of them are eligible, some of them are not eligible for the program, and there are smaller businesses in private equity and hedge funds as well. I mean, we have to be very careful in our society, in my opinion, of labeling certain things, and then those people are rich, these other people are poor. It's not necessarily that easy. There's a bigger gray zone than most people think. That's my point. But listen, I got a lot of empathy for the people in the restaurant industry. I own a restaurant, and I know how difficult it's going to be to start those restaurants, particularly in New York City, where we may not be able to open for quite some time. So all I'm saying is let's not label people right now. Let's just get the money into the system as quickly. There are no villains in this situation. There's an invisible virus that's hurting the entire society. But I do agree with you that we have to be careful of greedy people that are trying to take advantage of the system that are unfair. I'm just talking about in general. I'm not in love with the labels. And you did scare a couple of these young guys, Stephanie. I just want to point that out to you.
Anthony, I'm okay with that. Anthony Scaramucci, Seth, thank you both for joining me. I appreciate it. Anthony, guess what? You know what? I'll make an open invitation. Any private equity firm, any hedge fund manager, please come join me on air. I would love to discuss why you believe you're eligible for the program. I'm open to it.
I'll get a couple of these young guys to take you up on that offer, and you'll see that all they're trying to do is create jobs and flow capital into the society, Stephanie. They're not all demonic people.
Anthony, you know I don't think that. That's my background. I came from Wall Street. I support free markets. I love great American capitalism. At this moment, when we're talking about a program for service businesses that are about to go under, My heart's not bleeding for the hedge fund industry, but thank you. And again, come back anytime and bring any of those applicants. I'd love to discuss it with them.
All right, deal.
We're going to leave it there.